line managers are like the directors, the POs, are line managers to the EOs. The directors are line managers to the POs. The permanent secretary is the line manager to the directors. So you can see that the permanent secretary also signs service level agreement with the directors that's stating what the directorate should do. So the director also would go down to individual level and sign service level agreement with those individuals, so that everybody is held responsible for what he or she is doing. And every quarter, for those in the offices, assessed, we have what you call the service, and we have the quarterly reports. People will be reporting, and then we'll conduct reviews with your line manager. So looking at what you've done against what was set for you. What are the problems? How can we help to make sure that problems do not occur or do not occur? How can we do the undowns and the like? So you can see that review would look at specifically at performance, what you'll be doing. The permanent secretary conducts it with the directors. The directors also do it with their line managers. So it's still developing. You know, it's new to the public sector, not only in the Gambia, but globally. I think it's in Orange, in the United States, that we have a performance management system in the public sector, and here in the Gambia also. We have it, like usually it's private sector initiative. But we see that the private sectors are usually performing because people are wholly responsible, and the approach that they use is a performance-based management system. Okay. That's why. So the next strategy is that we want to make sure that it goes into the school system. That will start this year. Right, okay. And then we'll state all the performance areas that the school system operatives will do, and then they will start signing up to their service.
Right? Why not? If it is working for the private sector, what is good for the goose? What is good for the goose is good for the gander as well. So if it is working for the private sector, why not the public sector also adopting the same system? So thank you so very much, Mr. Fatajo, Mr. Gomez, Andy. Your system that is monitoring and evaluation is it's really very important here. Now we have all the systems in place. You have people, you have the MEs, ICT knowledge management. They have their strategies, they have their statement, they have their strategies. You also have human resources. They have their statements, they have their strategies. You also have a performance management system, their strategies, their statement. But then your role now comes in. That is, you're going to monitor to see the kind of responsibility that is given to these people. Are they living up to the task that has been given to them, that has been assigned to them? And you're also going to evaluate how much they've gained, how much they've realized in their efforts to achieve their objectives. So now tell us, what about your own case? What are some of the strategies that you need to put in place to get those things done, so your monitoring and evaluation?
Thank you very much, Jamal. Be careful before I snatch you from Grts. You already know actually what my unit is actually up to. And as Mr. Fatajo just rightly alluded to some of these issues. Now, the monitoring and evaluation unit have some strategies that are already in place, and we are selling it as a policy. And we expect comments from the public and comments from stakeholders especially. Because one of the strategies will be to continue the regular monitoring and evaluation of education sector programs and projects with specific focus on the area or the areas that where we set our own indicators. You know, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education has a set of indicators that are used to signal the success level of every activity that has been conducted. Therefore, if a directorate or a unit has a set of service level agreements, and they have developed their own plans that they intend to implement for a quarter. Now, our role there is to ensure that we monitor, to ensure that the plans that were set were actually implemented. And again, we are going to evaluate the level of success of what that directorate has planned to do. That is one of the strategies that we have to put in place to ensure that actually that happens. Now, we are also going to develop a partnership strategy that would allow a meaningful collaboration between the monitoring and evaluation units with all the directorates and other units of the ministry to ensure that there is a timely flow of information, which is very key in the performance of the M&E functions. Because you realize that M&E would rely on the reports that are coming from the directorates. And the directorates also would also rely on the units to report to them. Therefore, the information coming from the directorates to the monitoring and evaluation unit would allow the monitoring and evaluation unit to look at the reports against what was planned for every quarter. Therefore, a timely flow of information is very key in the exercise of our own functions. Because that is when we will be able to look at the reports that are coming into the M&E unit and then be able to give a feedback to all the directorates and the units as well. And the information coming to the monitoring and evaluation units would go along with recommendations that management would use in very key and informed decision making. We also intend to ensure that that we release relevant information to stakeholders on a regular basis. The Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education has stakeholders working with the ministry. We have our donor partners. We have in-country partners who work with education. Therefore, information coming from the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education may not only stop at the ministry level, it may go out to our stakeholders. So we want to ensure that there is that regular flow of information. We also want to develop subsystems that will respond to accurate analysis of variables within the overall M&E framework. Now, we have a framework that we have already developed. Now, it is not yet in place or approved by management, but a draft of a framework has already been developed. It has already undergone a technical validation, and we are expecting to go out on a social validation as soon as management looks into it to see its policy fitness and the like. Now, we want to base our analysis and evaluation on the framework, on the issues that are addressed on the framework. So that's one strategy that we already have. And there is also plans to ensure that management and the institutions of the monitoring and evaluation has their capacity developed. So these are some of the strategies that we want to ensure that they are well in place so that the M&E unit will be very functional to serve the interests of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and all stakeholders, as well as the Gambian public.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Mr. Gomez. It's always our intention to have this discussion that we're doing also said in local languages, because the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education has the large percentage of the stakeholders of the ministry, the parents, and most of those parents might not necessarily understand what has been said here in English. So that's why we also have a round of local language. So we will have them all to have a kind of a quick rundown of what they've said in English in the local language that they feel most comfortable with. So, Mr. Cham, the system analyst, can you analyze what you've said in local language? Can you just briefly tell us the policy statement of your, and even possibly just include chip in some strategies, but very quickly, in a minute, if you can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Jamal. Jërëjëf mbokk yi tey dañ leen ñëwaloon pour wax leen liggéey bu Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education ak seen jublu yéene yuñ bëgg a def ak yeneen plan yoo xam ne moom lañ bëgg a jël pour yóbbu ministre bi kanam. Man nag tey dinaa toog di wax ak yéen about li ñoo wax Education Management Information System, mooy loo xam ne dafay wax nit ñi si mooy daal loo xam ne dafay xibaaral ministre bi ci fànna yoo xam ne mu ngi cee liggéey. Léegi lii di imis bi dinañ try pour yokk ko